Okay, let's jump right into this explainer and see how a viral debate about a massive, Oscar winning movie actually reveals some incredibly deep, actionable truths about our modern mental health. Today, we're using the hit film Everything Everywhere All at Once as our jumping off point. We're going to explore philosophy, clinical depression, generational trauma, and ultimately, how we can actually find our purpose in what feels like a totally chaotic world.
So there's this really fascinating dilemma that popped up recently on a Reddit film forum. A user pointed out what they saw as this glaring contradiction in the movie. You see, the film clearly flirts with a nihilistic worldview, right? This idea that ultimately nothing matters. But at the exact same time, it's a story deeply rooted in generational trauma. So the user asked a brilliant question. If nothing matters in a cosmic foundational sense, then how on earth can the very real, very painful ripple effects of family trauma matter? Because if your actions wreck the mental state of your loved ones, your actions do matter. So does the movie contradict itself?
To figure this out, we kind of have to look at what I like to call the yes but pivot. You see, both the antagonist, Jobu Tupaki, and the incredibly lovable husband, Waymond, completely accept that the universe is meaningless. The difference is they have radically different responses to that void. Jobu looks at nothing matters and basically chooses despair, indifference, and violence. Waymond, on the other hand, looks at nothing matters and concludes that the only logical response is to fight back with kindness. Section 1. Unpacking the philosophical void. Let's see how this movie magic is actually centuries of human thought playing out right on screen. First up is existential nihilism. This is a belief that life just has no inherent meaning, which makes all of our human actions feel, well, ultimately futile. This perfectly mirrors Jobu Tupaki's famous everything bagel in the film. It's a literal black hole of cosmic insignificance. It's that sinking feeling that when you compare us to the vast, infinite universe, our little lives, our daily struggles, and even our most embarrassing mistakes, they just get completely swallowed up by the void. But then optimistic nihilism entirely flips the script. Think about it like this. If the eventual heat death of the universe is going to erase all of our mistakes anyway, then guess what? We are totally free. There's no pre-written script we have to follow, and there's no harsh universal judge keeping a scorecard of our failures. The total absence of a grand plan literally means we are liberated. We can define our own values, let go of past pains, and just find joy in the present moment without any fear of some ultimate cosmic judgment. And then we have absurdism. Championed by the philosopher Albert Camus, absurdism basically says, yeah, the universe is chaotic, indifferent, and absurd. It genuinely doesn't care about us. But, and this is the truly heroic part, we actively choose to seek purpose anyway. Think of Waymond's weaponization of kindness. As one user on that Reddit thread pointed out, quoting the author Terry Pratchett, there is no justice, there is just us. Even if universal justice and kindness are just total myths, it is entirely up to us to make those myths real in how we actually treat each other. Which brings us to this absolutely profound realization from philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre. Man is condemned to be free. Without a grand design, we are entirely responsible for our own choices. And let's be honest, that total freedom, it's a heavy, heavy responsibility. Frankly, it's exhausting enough to make anyone want to just take a nap. And that immense weight transitions us seamlessly into the psychological reality of modern life. Section 2, the modern meaning crisis. Because we have to ask, why are these 19th and 20th century philosophies hitting us so incredibly hard today? Why does a movie about nihilism resonate with millions of people right now? Well, look around. The modern world literally bombards us. Every day we're enduring hustle culture and digital overload, right? We're absorbing global tragedies through our phones and constantly comparing our messy, everyday lives to highly curated social media feeds. We face this relentless societal pressure that tells us our only real value is our economic productivity. And honestly, it leaves us feeling tiny, totally lost, and fundamentally disconnected from ourselves. When you stack all this up, the digital overload, the constant hustle, and a really severe lack of genuine human connection, you create a perfect storm. The famous psychiatrist Viktor Frankl called this the existential vacuum. It's this deep, aching emptiness that sets in the moment we lose our why. And as you might know, when you lose your why, just doing the bare basics of living can feel like climbing Mount Everest. Now, I want to be really clear here because it is absolutely crucial to understand the difference between exploring a philosophy and falling into a clinical condition. Philosophical nihilism is an intellectual exercise. It's about questioning truth and meaning. But clinical depression, that is physical. It's neurological. It shows up as anhedonia, where you physically cannot feel pleasure, and avolition, where you have absolutely zero motivation. It is so vital to recognize when just questioning life's purpose crosses the line into a medical crisis, where the world just goes completely gray. That takes us to Section 3, trauma and the void. This is where we really need to be incredibly empathetic with ourselves and others as we bridge the gap between abstract philosophy and actual clinical psychology. Let's walk through how this clinical dissension actually happens in the body. Trauma isn't just a bad event. It literally changes how your brain processes the world. Step 1, you experience overwhelming stress or trauma that totally shatters your sense of safety. Step 2, your nervous system gets completely overwhelmed and shifts into a protective free state. You basically go numb. And then step 3, because your emotions have completely flattened out just to protect you from the pain, you begin perceiving life as entirely pointless. If you take absolutely nothing else away from this explainer today, please let it be this. Seeing everything as pointless is sometimes just your nervous system acting as a shield. It is literally a survival strategy. If you've been struggling with the feeling that nothing matters, it doesn't mean you're broken. It might just mean your body is working overtime to create distance from a reality that felt or still feels entirely too impossible to handle. It's protection. All right, Section 4, finding meaning in chaos. The good news is we do not have to stay stuck in that freeze state. Let's pivot to the solutions. How do we move from this trauma-induced void toward what therapists actually call existential hope? So, one really powerful tool here is existential therapy. Unlike therapies that spend all their time looking backward at your childhood, this approach focuses squarely on the here and now. It helps us accept 4 unchangeable pillars of human life: death, isolation, meaning, and responsibility. By facing the hard reality that life is finite and that we are ultimately responsible for our choices, we stop waiting around for a universal instruction manual. We step up. We become the architects of our own experience. Then there's logotherapy. This was developed by Viktor Frankl, the psychiatrist I mentioned earlier, who actually survived the horrors of Nazi concentration camps. He realized that humans are fundamentally driven by a will to meaning. We can endure immense hardship, but we do it by reappraising our pain, connecting with other people through altruism, accepting healthy stress as just a byproduct of chasing our goals, and fiercely, stubbornly holding on to optimism. You discover your own unique purpose. You don't wait for a script to be handed to you. And, we can actually map this out into a totally practical timeline for your everyday life. You don't have to figure out the meaning of the cosmos by lunchtime today. Just start small. Day 1, set a goal that brings you joy, even if it feels a little scary or goes against what people expect of you. Week 1, try to actively embrace the unknown instead of fearing it. Month 1, train your brain to notice tiny, tiny moments of gratitude. I'm talking about a truly great cup of coffee or just the sound of rain on the window. Meaning is created through these small daily acts of authenticity. But honestly, here is the most crucial part of the whole journey. We have got to move from the lonely I to the messy, beautiful we. We very rarely discover meaning entirely by ourselves. Nihilism absolutely thrives in isolation. When we finally step out of our own heads and build authentic connections, when we let someone truly see us, or when we just help a stranger, this vast, cold universe suddenly starts to feel a whole lot more like home. Going back to that original Reddit thread, someone dropped this absolutely perfect quote from the TV show Angel. "If nothing we do matters, then all that matters is what we do." The absolute absence of a grand cosmic plan makes our immediate choices, how we treat our families, how we work to heal our generational trauma, how we show up for our friends, it makes those choices everything. It is all that exists, which makes it infinitely precious. To wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a really gentle reflection from Lotus Therapy. Just think about this for a second. If you didn't have to live up to anyone's expectations today, what is one small thing that would make you feel a little more alive? Let that spark your curiosity. You are fully empowered to create your own meaning right here, right now. Thank you so much for exploring this with me today, and I really hope this helped clear the fog just a little bit.